Welcome pre-cal students to the homework help video. Page 287, these numbers right here in front of you. Hopefully, if you've had any questions on your homework, you can view the ones that you're having problems with, okay? Let's start off with numbers 11 through 21. The directions say, and I'm turning over there right now, give me 1 second, I apologize. Use synthetic division to find the quotient and the remainder. So here we go. Let's start with this one right here. First of all, notice that our binomial has a lead coefficient of 1, a power of 1. The divisor does. We have a constant term here, so we can definitely use synthetic division. We have a positive 3 right here, so we're going to put a negative 3 inside the box. And then notice this dividend is written in standard form, so we're good there. The coefficient of the x to the fourth is 2. Coefficient of the x cubed is 7. Notice there's no x squared, so we're going to have to put a 0 in. And then the coefficient of the x is 1, and then your constant term is negative 12. So very quickly now, let's use synthetic division, and let's go ahead and divide these two polynomials. The first thing you do is bring down your 2, then you multiply. That would give you negative 6. Combine, that would give you a 1. Negative 3 times 1, negative 3. Combine, negative 3. Negative 3 times negative 3 is 9. Combine, you get a 10. Negative 3 times 10, negative 30. Combine, and you get a negative 42. Okay? Now they want you to write the answer in the correct form. And so notice the highest power in your dividend is 4. So we go one less than that. That would be 3. So your first term is an x cubed. And then your next term would be a 1x squared. And then your next term would be a negative 3x. And then your constant term is a positive 10. And then plus negative 42. That's your remainder over the dividend, or the divisor, excuse me, which is x plus 3. I think the back of the book has their answer written a little differently. But this is how I would like you to write your answers, and this is totally acceptable, okay? All right, moving on to number 13. Notice we have x plus 2 for the divisor, and that totally fits the form to use synthetic division. You have a positive 2 right here, so I'm going to put a negative 2 inside my box. And now let's go ahead and write the coefficients of our dividend here. The coefficient of the x cubed is 1. Your next coefficient would be a negative 2. And then notice there's no x to the 1 power, so I'm going to have to put a 0. And then your constant term is negative 8. All right, here we go. Using synthetic division, bring your first number down. Negative 2 times 1 is negative 2. Combine, you get a negative 4. Negative 2 times negative 4 is 8. Combine, and you get 8. Negative 2 times 8 is negative 16. Combine, and you get a negative 24 for your remainder. All right, and now here's how you'd write your answer. Notice your highest power in your dividend is a 3, so we're going to start with a 1. It'd be like this: a 1x squared, a negative 4x, and then a positive 8 for your constant term. So x squared, negative 4x, positive 8, and then plus with your remainder over the divisor, which is x plus 2. All right, moving on to number 15. Notice these are really fast once you learn how to do these, okay? We're dividing by x plus 1, so we can use synthetic division. We have a positive 1 here, so I'm going to put a negative 1 inside my box. And it looks like we need to put no zeros in. We have an x cubed, then an x squared, then an x to the 1, and then your constant term. So my coefficients would be 3, negative 1, 4, and negative 10. All right, let's bring your 3 down. And now negative 1 times 3 is negative 3. Combine, you'll get a negative 4. Multiply, you will get a positive 4. Combine, you would get an 8. Multiply, negative 1 times 8 is a negative 8. Combine, and you get a negative 18. So your final answer, notice your highest degree was an x cubed. So your 3 here would get an x squared, your negative 4 would get an x, and this would be your constant term. So your final answer is 3x squared minus 4x plus 8, and then your remainder is negative 18. So plus negative 18 over your divisor, which is x plus 1. All right, moving on to number 17. Okay, x minus 3 is your divisor, so we can definitely use synthetic division. Notice you have x minus 3, so I'm going to put a positive 3 inside my box here. And we're going to have to put a lot of zeros in. Your x to the fifth has a coefficient of 1. There is no x to the fourth, so I'll put a 0. X to the cubed has a coefficient of 1. There is no x squared, so I'm going to put a 0. Your x term has a negative 1 for a coefficient. And then notice, students, there's no constant term, so you've got to put a 0 for the constant term, okay? And here we go. Bring your first number down, and now multiply, you get a 3. Combine, you get a 3. 3 times 3 is 9. Combine, you get a 10. 3 times 10 is 30. Combine, you get 30. 3 times 30 is 90. Combine, and you will get an 89. And then 89 times 3 would be what? 27. Carry your 2, 262. Combine, and you will get 262. Now I'm getting 267. Oh yes, I multiplied wrong. And let's fix that real quick. So it would be 267. And then combine, and you will get 267. Okay, now the highest degree in your dividend was a 5. So your 1 here would get an x to the 4th. Your 3 would get an x cubed. Your 10 would get an x squared. Your 30 would get an x. And 89 would be your constant term. So your answer is x to the 4th plus 3x cubed plus 10x squared plus 30x plus 89 plus 267 over x minus 3. Okay? So there's your answer. Boy, that is so much faster than long division. Is it not? That's so much faster and so helpful. All right, number 19. Notice your divisor is x minus 1, so we can definitely use synthetic division. Because we have a negative 1 here, I'm going to put a positive 1 right here. And now we're going to list the coefficients going across. X to the 4th has a coefficient of 1. There is no x cubed, so I'll put a 0. There is no x squared, I will put a 0. There is no x term, I will put a 0. And then your constant term is negative 1. All right, let's bring down the first number, that's 1. Multiply 1 times 1, you get a 1. Combine, and you get a 1. 1 times 1 is 1. Combine, you get a 1. 1 times 1 is 1. Combine, and you get a 1. 1 times 1 is 1. Combine, and you get a 0. So we have a remainder of 0. Okay? All right, moving on. Notice your highest power was a 4th, so your 1 here would get an x cubed, your 1 here would get an x squared, your 1 here would get an x, and this is your constant term. So your final answer is x cubed plus x squared plus x plus 1. And there's no remainder, so that's sufficient. All right. And then the last one in this section, number 21. And of course, they would have to throw a fraction at us, which is fine. Notice your divisor is x minus 1/2, so we can definitely use synthetic division. Because you have a negative 1/2, I'm going to put a positive 1/2 in my box here. And here we go. The coefficient for the x to the 4th would be 2. There is no x cubed, so I will put a 0. The coefficient of the x squared is 3. There is no x, so I will put a 0, and your constant term is negative 1. Okay, here we go. Bring down your 2. 1/2 times 2 is 1. Combine, and you get a 1. 1/2 times 1 is 1/2. Combine, you would get 3 and 1/2. I'm going to put 7 over 2. 1/2 times 7 over 2 would be 7/4, or in other words, 1 3/4. And when you combine that, you will get 1 3/4. I'm going to put 7/4. 1/2 times 7/4 would be 7/8. So I'll put a 7/8 here. And negative 1 plus a 7/8 would be a negative 1/8. Okay? A negative 1/8. And so your highest power is an x to the 4th. So your 2 would be an x cubed term. Your 1 would be an x squared. Your 7/2 would be an x, and 7/4 would be your constant term. So your final answer would be 2x cubed plus 1x squared plus 7/2 x plus 7/4. Now be careful here. Watch, please. Plus, now I'm going to come down here and do some work. You would put your remainder, negative 1/8, over x minus 1/2, okay? But I need to show you something here that you need to see. So watch this carefully. whenever you have a fraction within a fraction like this, whenever the fraction is up top, really technically, students, you shouldn't have a fraction within a fraction like this. And there's a shortcut I'd like to show you. If the fraction is up top like -1/8, you can leave a -1 up top, and that 1 came from this one right here. And see this 8 right here, you can put it in the bottom and multiply it times x times 1/2, okay? Let me go over that again. Whenever you have a fraction within a fraction, and that fraction that you're trying to get rid of, this 1/8, is in the numerator, you can use a shortcut. The negative sign can stay up top, that's fine. The number on top of the 1/8 can stay up top, and the number in the bottom of the 1/8 goes in the bottom. So then what you'd really have is this, -1 over 8x minus 4, because 8 times x is 8x, and 8 times -1/2 is -4. Okay, so that is a shortcut, and you really should do that. No teacher is going to want a fraction within a fraction. And that shortcut that I just showed you only works when the fraction's up top. Now, what if it had been turned around? What if you would have had 1/8 in the bottom like this, and you would have had x minus 1/2 up top like this? Well, what you do in that case then is you flip the fraction and you multiply it times the top. So you flip the fraction, you have 1/8. And so if you flip 1/8, you really get 8 over 1. So the 1 could stay in the denominator, and then the 8 would go up top. So notice we had 1/8 in the bottom. We had a 1/8 right here. If you flip the 1/8, you get 8 over 1. The 8 goes up top, the 1 goes in the bottom, and then you would have 8x minus 4 all over 1. So just make sure you're familiar with those two shortcuts. Back the video up again if you need to and watch that, but it's very important that you don't have an answer in which you have a fraction within a fraction, okay? All right, there's the answer. I hope that helps, and let's continue on. Now for 23 and 25, we're using synthetic division to find the values of functions, okay? So they're giving us a value, and we're going to quickly evaluate it using synthetic division. So for number 23, they've given us this function right here, and they want us to evaluate this function at f of 1, f of -2, and f of 3. Now the reason this is going to be fast is because we're going to write the function down one time. So here's my coefficients. Notice I have an x cubed, an x squared, an x to the 1, and a constant term. So there's no need to put any zeros in. So I write my coefficients like this. And now the first number I want to evaluate this function at is f of 1. So I put a 1 here. And notice you don't change the sign. F of 1 means you put a 1 right here, and watch how fast we go. Bring down your first term. 1 times 1 is 1. Combine, you get a -5. 1 times -5 is -5. Combine, you get 6. 1 times 6 is 6. Combine, and you get a 0. So your first answer, f of 1 equals 0, the number you got out. And now we don't have to set all this up again. Let's just erase this. And now the next number we're going to evaluate is f of -2. So I'm going to put a -2 right here. And here we go. Bring down your 1. Multiply, you get a -2. Combine, you get a -8. Multiply, you get 16. Combine, you get 27. Multiply, and you get -54. Combine, and you get -60. So f of -2 equals -60. For me, that's a lot faster than putting a -2 in everywhere there's an x. Synthetic division is a really cool method to become familiar with. And then lastly, we're evaluating f of 3. So make this positive and make this number 3. And here we go. Bring down your 1. Multiply, you get 3. Combine, you get -3. Multiply, you get a -9. Combine, you get 2. Multiply, and you get 6. Combine, and you get 0. So f of 3 equals 0. So there's your three answers. And by the way, two numbers gave you out 0. 1 gave you out a 0, and 3 gave you out a 0. So if you were graphing this function, we would know there are zeros at 1 and 3, or in other words, there are x-intercepts at 1 and 3. Okay, moving on to number 25. Here we go, the exact same thing. I will have to put some zeros in. Notice my function goes from fourth to a third power. There's no squared, and then a 2 to the 1, then an x. So my coefficients would be 1, -3, then a 0 for the x squared, and then 2, and then 8. The first number I'm going to evaluate the function at is f of -1. F of -1. We'll put a -1 here. That's what we're evaluating the function at. And here we go. Bring your first number down. -1 times 1, -1. Combine, you'll get -4. Multiply, you'll get a +4. Combine, you'll get 4. -1 times 4 is -4. Combine, you'll get a -2. -1 times -2 is a +2. Combine, and you will get a 10. So f of -1 equals 10. Man, that is so much faster than everywhere there's an x putting a -1 in. Even using a calculator, I think this method is still faster. Okay, next we're going to put a +4 in. +4. We're going to evaluate the function at f of 4. So here we go. Bring your first number down 1. 4 times 1 is 4. Combine, you get a 1. 4 times 1 is 4. Combine, you get 4. 4 times 4 is 16. Combine, and you will get 18. 18 times 4 is 72. 72 plus 8 is 80. All right. So f of 4 equals 80. F of 4 equals 80. All right. And then we have one more number to evaluate this function at, and that's going to be a -5. I think I'm just going to erase this right here and put a -5. There we go. And now let's quickly do our evaluation. Bring down your 1. -5 times 1, -5. Combine, you'll get a -8. -5 times -8 is 40. Combine, you'll get a 40. -5 times 40 is -200. Combine those, you'll get a -198. -198 times -5 would be a +990. And then combine those two, you'll get 998. So f of -5 equals 998. Okay, so there we go. We're just actually putting numbers in and getting numbers out. And you might think it's faster to take -5, and everywhere there's an x, put a -5. Sometimes it is faster to do it that way, but synthetic division is also a very helpful method. Okay, 2 problems and we're finally done. For numbers 31 and 33, they would like to know if these numbers here are zeros of the function. So we're going to substitute -3 in, see if we get out a 0, then substitute 2 in and see if we get out a 0. So here we go. -3 would go inside my box. My coefficients here would be 3, 5, -6, and 18. There's no need to put any zeros in. And here we go. Bring your first number down. Multiply -3 and 3 is -9. Combine, you get a -4. -3 times 4 is 12. Combine, you get 6. -3 times 6 is -18. Combine, and you get out a 0. So when you put -3 in, you got out a 0. So is -3 a 0? Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Okay, let's try 2 very quickly, and then we'll move on. So make this a +2. +2. All right, let's bring the 3 down. 3 times 2 is 6. Combine, you get an 11. 2 times 11 is 22. Combine, and you will get 16. 2 times 16 is 32. Combine, and you will get 50. So when we substituted 2 in, did we get out a 0? No, not at all. We got out 50. So no, 2 is not a 0. Okay, last problem on the homework assignment. We're going to see if -3 is a 0, and we're going to see if 1 is a 0 using synthetic division. So we'll start with -3, put that inside the box. Looks like I don't have to put any zeros in. I have a fourth power, then a third, then a second, then a 1, then a constant term. So we're looking pretty good. My coefficients would be 1, 4, 2, -4, and -3. Here we go. Bring down your 1, negative 3 times 1, negative 3, combine as 1, negative 3 times 1 is a negative 3, combine you get a negative 1, negative 3 times negative 1 is 3, combine you get a negative 1, and negative 3 times negative 1 is a positive 3, combine and you get a 0. So yes, when you put negative 3 in, you got out a 0. In other words, f of negative 3 equals 0. So yes, negative 3 is a 0. Now let's try our last one here very quickly. We're going to substitute a negative 1 in, or excuse me, a positive 1 right here, a positive 1. And let's see what happens. Bring down your first numbers of 1. 1 times 1 is 1. Combine, you get a 5. 1 times 5 is 5. Combine, you get a 7. 1 times 7 is 7. Combine, you get a 3. And 1 times 3 is 3. And you will get out a 0. So f of 1 equals 0. So yes, 1 is a 0 for this function. So if you were to graph this function, you would know for sure you would have at least 2 x-intercepts. One x-intercept would be at negative 3 and the other would be at positive 1. Okay, I hope this homework help video has been a help to you. Call or email if you have any questions.